Well, good morning, and as usual, because I'm on my own, is a struggle with tech overtakes me, and I really have. I get terribly, terribly frustrated. And I wish that the companies that hire these young, brilliant guys who know expertly how to twist and turn the apps and all the rest of it, is to tell them the one thing that they're missing, and that is the marketing principle: keep it simple, stupid. Look at me. I am completely and utterly stupid when it comes to uh, online, high tech computer stuff. And yet, all they do is they pile more and more and more complicated stuff on me. Well, stop it. Make it usable by millions, not pleasing you as you sit in your, I should say, ivory towers. You sit in your dungeons, fiddling around so you've got time to play bloody games. I am totally and utterly fed up with it. And I'm in a fed up mood this morning. I don't know what it is, whether it's that we've got a new generation who see things differently, or whether we've got a generation that simply don't care. Just the simple courtesies of having made an appointment, of saying, I'm sorry, I can't be there, seem to have escaped people nowadays. Youngsters just simply don't turn up. And then after I've sat in a corner blaming youngsters, middle-aged people don't turn up. Now, if they don't turn up, sometimes it's understandable. They can't. But why the hell don't they let people know so that you don't stand around twiddling your thumbs? If you say anything, it's as if you actually insulted their intelligence. Well, let me insult them all. We've got a generation that is really out of control. It's a rubbish generation. They don't know their arse from their elbows, and yet they're supposed to be leading us. Let's get back to having people who are 75 and 80. Because at least we understand the values of a civil society. You bloody don't. And I'm sick and tired and fed up with it, and being at the rough end of it. And then taking criticism because something didn't happen. And I don't know, I thought perhaps we got a guest for now. But it is time for introspection. It is time to take a look at yourselves. It's time to say, let's have a bit of honor, let's have a bit of respect in our society. Because if we keep on going this way, we'll fight ourselves to death over absolutely nothing. We're in a real pickle, and nobody seems to want to. Nobody seems to want to do anything about it. I personally am totally depressed by this attitude. And I've got to the point where I feel that I've got to say publicly, I think that the mores, the social etiquette, and the practicality of interaction, both at a personal and professional level, is rubbish. Absolute rubbish. No wonder that we're in such a pickle. Now, I have to say that people who are a bit like me, all mouth, sometimes no trousers, that I think the same way. Little John is in the mail today. Is having a go. People who can't deliver. And some others are beginning to say our society has been wrecked by all this silly nonsense, transgender stuff. Not really caring much about any sort of rules, but just stamping your feet and trying to get your own way. The society has to contribute. All sections of society have to contribute for it to work. And when they don't, or when it doesn't, then we are in serious trouble. I hear little feet behind me. Good morning. I'm having a rant. I'm happy to say there's a kindly face and somebody who, in my opinion, is absolutely true blue has just walked in. And that gives me a shot in the arm. All right, let's go and see what the papers are saying. Do you want to join me? Have you got time?
I've got 5 minutes.
Oh, all right. Come and have a chat then before I go into the papers.
Okay.
I'm happy to say that Richard Barton, whom many of you really thoroughly enjoy on a Monday and a Friday.
Sorry, I'm just going to need to squeeze past. I've got fat legs.
Oh, sorry, you got fat legs.
Before we start, Keith, I just need to say that I've got to go elsewhere today, so we can't do what you were suggesting we should do today, but I'll let you know.
Okay, yeah. No, if you can before the end of the week would be great.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
certainly.
Super. Yesterday we had a great chat about assassinations.
We did, and no one's killed you yet.
No, indeed. Oh, you, indeed.
Yes.
We were walking the streets, at least 3 men for the moment. But one of the things that somebody said to me who was watching yesterday is that they thoroughly enjoy you and Philip and the program. But how do we come up with the topics that we talk about? And I said, listen, it's Richard's show. He comes up with the topics.
Yeah, it's. I spoke to Philip over the weekend on Saturday when his beloved Manchester City were losing.
Oh dear!
Exactly.
And they did. They lost.
Yes. And I said, look, let's keep this fluid. 2 things. Ideally, it's something that's a bit topical, and because we had the chap in Switzerland who got bizarrely acquitted when he had admitted being an assassin, we thought that was an interesting sort of launch pad for talking about assassinations generally. And secondly, and more importantly, for our one man and a dog listener, viewer, is we don't tell you the topic, Keith, because yesterday you were absolutely on form. You didn't know what we were going to talk about, but we knew that would draw the best out of you because you would come up with your anecdotes, and they would, when you. I spoke to Philip afterwards, and when you said, yes, when I interviewed Indira Gandhi. Now, how many people could have that line? Of course, he's a consummate liar. It's not true. But it shows what a rich and varied life you've had, Keith, that you're able to drop that into the conversation. I thought that was beautifully done. And you didn't do it with any great fanfare, blowing your own trumpet or anything of that kind. You simply said, yeah, well, I interviewed her.
Well, one of the things that I think that all 3 of us have is that we have been lucky enough to be in professions where we've met a huge variety of people.
Yep.
From the low to the high.
Yes.
And I think we sort of feel comfortable in that company as well. So it's not beyond us to say, "Oi, you," and find that we're talking to the king.
Yes. Yes. I'm trying to think how many politicians I've represented, MPs I've represented. I think it's 2 or 3 on various things. But there we go. I'm not going to name names. Yeah.
Are they difficult to represent in the main?
One in particular was wanted to argue a whole range of things as the sort of barrack room lawyer type argument. You know, a little learning is a dangerous thing, as you know. And he was a handful, and I was quite junior when I did that. In fact, it was just at the time when Margaret Thatcher resigned. And so when I went to court with him, there was a lot of press there, people like you, terrible journalists, wanted to get his views on what he thought about what was happening. I regret to say that he just spoke at length to them, and I told him, I said, look, don't talk to the press. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself more publicity about the fact that you're here for they were driving offences. I was very junior. I said, just don't talk to the press, and then there isn't a story. You know, that's the obvious point. No, off he went, loving the publicity. And then it, splashed over everywhere. This MP was in court for dilly doodah and all that sort of thing. And I was too young to say, I told you so. But it's what I thought.
Yes, it is. I must say that I'm very unkind to politicians on this program, but I looking through the news this morning, I just got the feeling that we should actually get rid of the whole pat and start all over again. And one of the things, I don't know whether you agree with me, but there has been a distinct move to the right by the Conservatives, which seems to be welcomed broadly by the public. They're beginning to gain again in the polls, and then suddenly what they do is they start to attack one another again. That to me, it doesn't seem to indicate that they're looking for any sort of stability, but only power grabbing.
I have to remind you, Keith, that I am a dyed-in-the-wool socialist, and the thought of Tories fighting each other is a joy to me. But if we get rid of all the politicians, then you could be President Keith. I could be Prime Minister Richard. Phil could be a cleaner, perhaps. I don't know. Yeah, we'd sort the country out between us, I'm sure.
But can we have a solid plan before we do this, that we're not going to be assassinated?
Well, this is the difficulty, isn't it? You wouldn't want to be in that position. Or which one of us would assassinate the other one, I suppose, is the issue.
Have you ever seen the movie based on the governor of Illinois, I think it is, Huey Long, All the King's Men?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, that's a wonderful story, is
highly recommended.
Yes, and based on truth. I mean, that governor did exist. I think that they set him in Chicago in the movie as opposed to he was somewhere else. I forget where, but nonetheless, a true story. And a man who went in to clean out the bad guys, and ended up being the bad guy himself. Very easy to be suborned, isn't it?
Oh, it's so easy, so easy. Yes, no question. Well, why do you think I'm here, Keith? It's only because you've got those photos of me in a safe somewhere.
And I'm not telling you where the safe is.
No, of course you've got all the combinations. I was wearing my combinations, admittedly, in the safe. Keith, I've got to go anyway.
Okay.
But I only came to say hello.
As you know, this is based on Pebble Mill at 1, and you can wander in and wander out at any time that you want, and we'll have a little chat, and it's always worthwhile. It's always good to see you. I always, whenever I motor past, being towed past your house in the morning, I always look up. If there's a light on, I know that you're off to somewhere away. If the light is out, I know that you've got a few more hours of kip before you come down here and go across the road.
Exactly. You're absolutely right there. Absolutely right. Or I've got lucky overnight. That's the other alternative. Anyway,
have a good day.
Good to see you.
And
I'll let you know which day is good for me.
Okay, super. Thank you. Toodle-pip. Well, that was a pleasant surprise. One of the two Bs, Richard Barton, in, and just at the time when I was ranting and raving about modern standards, and he at least saved everybody from getting an earful from me. Now, shall we then go to the we'll go to the front pages of the papers, and actually, many of the papers this morning got the same. Why on earth these things happen? Things crop up here. Okay, newspaper headlines. Tory rebellion as Sunak brings the axe down on HS2. Right, The Guardian. Sunak accused of cancelling the future with a climb down over HS2. Many of Tuesday's papers are dominated by the growing concerns people have about the government's plans for HS2. The Guardian says Rishi Sunak is being accused of cancelling the future with his expected climb down over the rail project. The Prime Minister is preparing to announce the cancellation of HS2's multi-billion-pound leg to Manchester, it adds. The Metro. It's Manc robbery. It says, with a play on words, MANC, meaning Manchester, it's Manc robbery is the Metro's headline, with the paper focusing on the fury that Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has expressed about HS2. He told reporters on Monday that this Conservative conference will be remembered as the one when they pulled the plug on us. I mean, for those people who just about everybody is familiar with what HS2 is, of course, it's the super high speed rail link that is going to connect London to the north, to Manchester and points north. It has cost a fortune. The costs keep spiraling. There have been question marks over it for quite some time as to whether, in fact, it is worthwhile and should it be carried on because of the expense. And now we've got a Prime Minister who has said, yeah, it is too expensive. We'd love to have it, but it's too expensive. It's, of course, everybody's up in arms saying, why are you cancelling it? The mere fact is that we have had a very expensive time, and the government has got to look around and see where it can save money, and has decided that this, at least for the time being, is something that we can do without. I personally have doubts about rail lines, super rail lines, being that significant in terms of opening up the north. I would have thought there are other ways to open it up. But there you are. I'm no expert in these matters. The eye, as Tory rebellion grows, as the Prime Minister scraps HS2 in the north. Well, it's not only the opposition, and it's not only the Mayor of Manchester and people in the north who are furious, so are a lot of his backbenchers. The Eye reports that there are already rebellion amongst the Prime Minister's party. It adds that number 10 insists no final decision has yet been made, as well as reporting the axing of the second phase of HS2 between Birmingham and Manchester. The paper understands the Northern Powerhouse rail project between Liverpool and Hull could also be at risk. So there you are, a lot of axing a very expensive project. The Times. The headline is the PM brings axe down on HS2 in the north, and the Times gets big on the second day of the Tory conference, telling its readers that Mr. Sunak has brought an axe down HS2 in the north. An unnamed source, who the paper describes as being familiar with the Prime Minister's thinking, says the project was based on old assumptions and that the COVID pandemic has changed the nature of travel. There's also a large range image of Business Secretary Kemi Badenoch, who used her own speech to tell delegates that the UK is the best country in which to be black. Oh, that's good. Personally, I think that discrimination, particularly colour discrimination, but any discrimination, is actually whipped to a frenzy by those people who assume they're being discriminated against. But, I have no isms at all. I don't care who people are. I accept them unless they actually prove to me that they're worthless, and that's really nothing to do with colour, ethnicity, religion, or anything else. So when these sort of things come up and all the nonsense is spouted about how we're all bigots and so on and so forth. I mean, there's a Guardian reporter 2 or 3 years ago came into Lewis. I don't think he was here on anything other than just a visit with some friends, and went back and wrote that we were a racist town because he couldn't spot any black people here. I mean, what rubbish. How silly can you get? You can get silly. That is daft beyond measure. Absolutely. I just do not understand how people can whip themselves into a frenzy of that sort, unless they want to be whipped into a frenzy, unless they want to create divisions for their own particular use. I am a non-ism person, and I wish that more people were non-ism persons. Am I looking any better? Not really. I'm looking the battered and beaten young man that I am. But at the moment, A country in a mess. A country really in a mess. The Daily Mail. It decides not to go with HS2 on its front page. But here is the speech by Kemi Badanac. The best country to be black in, says Kemi. Badanac made a conference speech which says the minister used her tub-thumping speech to blast the Labour Party's woke views and for using Brexit to repeatedly talk down Britain. A large image of the actress Helen Mirren also appears on the front page after she appeared in the beauty brand L'Oreal's show at Paris Fashion Week. I think we better just pay a bit more attention to what Kemi is saying. We see people, not labels, says the minister in rousing speech on race, gender, and Brexit. Britain is the best country in the world to be black in, Kemi Badanac told the Tory party conference. The business secretary used a tub-thumping speech to blast Labour over its woke views and for using Brexit to repeatedly talk down Britain. She lashed out over trans rights, Remainer defeatism, and the pace of reaching green targets. Mrs. Badanac rejected the narrative of hopelessness for ethnic minorities that suggests British society is against you and you're better off asking for reparations. She said the Tories were in line with civil rights campaigners and particularly Martin Luther King because they believe people should be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Well, yeah, make up your own mind, but she seems to be talking a lot of sense to me. The Financial Times. Sunak faces mounting protests over the plan to axe northern branch of HS2. So the Financial Times goes along with that as the main story too. The FT warns that Mr. Sunak faces mounting protests over the HS2 row. It also reports that when asked, aides to Chancellor Jeremy Hunt did not deny that he had already approved a radical scaling back of the rail project. But the main story is former US President Donald Trump, whose appearance in a Manhattan court at the start of a civil fraud trial against him and his eldest sons becomes important. An image of Mr. Trump inside the courtroom alongside his legal team sits atop the page. The Daily Telegraph. Transgender women to be banned from female awards. I'm sorry, from female awards. A photo of former Prime Minister Liz Truss laughing sits at the center of Tuesday's Daily Telegraph. She gave a speech at the Conservative conference in which she called for the government to cut taxes and build new homes. Cartoons drawn by Matt Pritchard's take on mistrust. No ticket appearance is a drama of someone outside a water company asking when the party will stop all these outpourings from Liz Truss. The paper's lead story is about government plans, supposedly going to be announced by Health Secretary Steve Barclay later today, to ban transgender women from female hospital wards. The Daily Express, Rishi's path to victory by delivering what's best for Britain. The Express takes a positive view on the plans Mr. Sunak is expected to set out in his conference speech tomorrow. He's planning a series of bold announcements that will focus on what is best for Britain. Elsewhere, there is a tribute to Francis Lee, the Manchester City and England footballer who died on Monday, aged 79. The Daily Star goes with the footballer story. R.I.P. to legend Franny Lee. Keep your eyes peeled and your nostrils sealed. It says it's good for it. It hasn't lost its touch of making you smile in the morning. My skunk's done a bunk. Is a huge hunt for a fully loaded deaf pet who's escaped from the garden. My God, if you bump into that, I'll tell you, you'll be stained for a long time to come. I've only come across a skunk in the wild 2 or 3 times and disturbed him. But the stink is enormous and it sticks to you for days. So do be careful. There's another tribute for Mr. Lee sits atop the Daily Star. Underneath is an entirely different news story about an escaped deaf pet skunk who residents of Christchurch, Dorset, are being told to keep an eye out for. She is capable of spraying and is fully loaded and frightened of strangers. Sky, the skunk's owner, Sharon, tells the paper the spray is stinky when it happens. When this happens, but it is such a rarity. Yeah, in this country, it is. In North America, it's a bit different. The Sun, Strictly stars troll terror. Shirley, I'm afraid to leave the house. Funny that we should be talking yesterday about being afraid you'll be attacked. We got through that when we were talking about assassinations. Not suggesting that assassination is likely in this place at time, but also the fact that we've got a bit of oomph, if you like. Is a very good-looking lady, rather better than some of the doll-like creatures that we get. The Sun leads on Strictly Come Dancing judge Shirley Ballas, whose online troll terror, the paper says, it means that death threats, violent and sexual images have left her scared to leave her home. Elsewhere, there is a mention of the Tory row over H52, or HS2, which the paper says overshadowed day 2 of the party's conference in Manchester. Well, that's That's the news headlines. Let's take a look at the weather, which seems to be changing constantly. Hang on. Wait on. Hang on. We've managed to cock things up again. Let me just come back to you. I can't. There. Now, I have no idea why this happens, but the whole thing goes out of kilter. Let's see if we can get weather for Lewis today. Well, it looks like we should be able to. Here we go. Lewis, BBC weather, and never mind the weather as long as we're together. Okay, today 18 degrees, not as hot as it has been, but it's not going to cool down. Throughout the week, we've got 18 today, Wednesday 18, Thursday 18, and then it goes back up again on Friday to 20, and then 22 on Saturday, 23 on Sunday, 22 on Monday, and 21 on Tuesday. So looking for a good weekend. We've got a moderate breeze today, and if truth is known, we are told no rain. Indeed, we have no rain at all. And the sun should come out at about 4 o'clock. And clear skies should last until, 2 tomorrow morning. Okie dokie, that's where we're at with the news headlines and the information bits and so on and so forth. I've had a little shout, a little rant. Richard's had a little rant. And so all in all, it's a healthy start to the day. Now, what is the time? It's 5 to 9. Goodness gracious me, how the time does fly. We'll go away now. I'll be back in about 10 past 9 with more whatever. Okay, let's say goodbye the long way.